I'm in San Francisco for REITwise 2011, Nareit's Law, Accounting, and Finance Conference. Joining me is Kristen Benson, Vice President and Senior Securities Counsel with Ventas. So Kristen, here at REITwise you participated in a panel on SEC rules and corporate governance developments. Obviously a major issue in that regard is the Dodd-Frank Act. Could you summarize the impact that'll have?
I do think there are two significant impacts that the Act has. First and foremost, the Act really shifts the balance of power from the board to shareholders through things such as say-on-pay, proxy access. It really gives shareholders the power to direct or influence matters that were traditionally within the purview of the board under state law. Secondly, it really increases the scrutiny on boards through enhanced disclosure obligations, advisory votes, etc. Boards are being held more accountable and are having to justify, sometimes in excruciating detail, all of their actions. So, unlike Sarbanes-Oxley, which really reflected the notion that independent boards, and in particular independent audit committees, were the solution to management accountability problems, Dodd-Frank really takes that a step further and advances the notion that shareholders are the best governors.
You mentioned say-on-pay, which is obviously another important development. What are the key things there?
As I mentioned before, one of the things that say-on-pay does is it really increases the shareholders' power and limits the power of the board to direct matters that I think are really more appropriate for the board. The board is really the best monitor of management and executive compensation decisions, and say-on-pay really weakens that authority. And then secondly, say-on-pay really increases the influence that proxy advisory firms such as ISS have. Many large institutional investors follow ISS, and even if they don't follow ISS, they consider ISS's recommendations in making their voting decisions. And so what say-on-pay does, it really puts pressure on boards to accede to the wishes of its most vocal shareholders and to conform to rigid ideas about the best corporate governance and compensation practices that proxy advisory firms advance.
Now, we've touched on a number of important issues. Are there any other key corporate governance issues that are facing listed REITs today?
What I see as sort of the biggest issue facing listed REITs today is risk management and the effective oversight of that risk management. The difficulty here is that there is no single approach to risk management. Obviously, what works for one company may not work for another. It all depends on the board, the culture, the organization, the particular circumstances of a company. But what I see happening is legislators, regulators, proxy advisory firms, shareholders are all trying to force a one-size-fits-all approach, and I think that's really to the detriment of many companies, and so directors will face a significant challenge in that respect.
Kristen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
For more from REITwise 2011, be sure to visit REIT.com.